Okay, what if I told you that the secret to winning at trading is actually getting really, really good at losing? I know, it sounds totally backwards, right? But today we're going to dive into a book that flips everything you think you know on its head. It's called Best Loser Wins by a high-stakes trader named Tom Hougaard. And his whole message, the core of it, is that to actually win this game, you first have to become a master at taking a loss.
And it all starts with a pretty brutal number. I mean, get this. Study after study from all the big brokers shows that something like 90% of retail traders, people trading from home, consistently lose money. Just let that sink in for a second. That's 9 out of every 10 people who give this a shot ending up in the red.
So that leads to the big question, right? Because the crazy thing is, these aren't people who fail at everything else in life. You're talking about entrepreneurs, doctors, lawyers, really sharp, motivated people. So what gives? Why does the way we normally think, the way smart people think, lead to complete failure in the markets?
All right, so first things first, let's be clear. This isn't just some myth people throw around. The 90% failure rate is a real, well-documented problem. In fact, in Europe, brokers are legally required to publish these stats, and yeah, they're almost always sitting somewhere between 80 and 90%. It's a real thing.
And like Tom Hougaard points out in his book, trading attracts the exact kind of people you'd think would succeed. Ambitious, driven people who aren't afraid of a challenge. So if it's not about being smart enough and it's not about a lack of hard work, then what on earth is the problem?
Well, here's the thing. According to the book, the problem is that pretty much everyone starts out chasing the completely wrong stuff. They have this idea that success is hidden somewhere out there, in some secret tool or some magic technique. I bet this looks familiar to a lot of you. The journey for most new traders is just this endless, exhausting hunt for the perfect how-to. That one magic indicator, that flawless strategy, that secret chart pattern that never fails. People spend thousands of hours and a lot of money on this quest, thinking that's the key. But it's a road that almost always leads to the exact same place, straight into the 90% club.
And here's where it gets really interesting. Hougaard argues that the trading industry itself actually feeds this problem. A lot of the so-called gurus and educators out there, they're selling these super complex systems that, frankly, they probably don't even use themselves. They're selling people what they think they want, not what they actually need to succeed.
Okay, so this brings us to the absolute heart of the book. The real battle, it's not on your computer screen. It's happening right between your ears. Trading isn't about strategy, it's a mind game. And the punchline is, our brains are just not built for it. Take a look at this. Right now, your brain is screaming at you that square A is way darker than square B. It's not a question, it's a fact, right? But it's an illusion. They are the exact same shade of gray. And this is such a perfect example of the problem. Our brains are hardwired to lie to us, to misinterpret reality. And that is a fatal flaw when you're making split-second decisions with real money on the line.
So one of the biggest mental traps is something called cognitive dissonance. You know that horrible sinking feeling you get in your gut when a trade starts going against you? That's it. And to make that bad feeling go away, our brains do something totally irrational. We rush to close our winning trades, to lock in that little hit of, I was right. But we'll cling to our losing trades, just hoping and praying they'll come back. All to avoid the pain of admitting we were wrong.
And look, this isn't just some psychological theory. We have hard data to back it up. A brokerage did this massive study. We're talking 43 million trades. And what they found is mind-blowing. The average trader was actually right more than half the time. Let that sink in. They picked the right direction more often than they were wrong. So why were they still losing money? Simple. Because their average losing trade was almost twice as big as their average winning trade. They were cutting their winners short and letting their losers absolutely destroy their account. Okay, so if the problem is all in our heads, then the solution has to be in our heads too, right? And this is where Hougaard drops his big, counterintuitive idea. To win, you have to become the absolute best loser in the game.
This right here perfectly captures the complete mental flip you have to make. The losing 90%, they get fearful when they're winning, terrified that the profit is going to vanish. And then they get hopeful when they're losing, just praying the market will turn around and save them. The successful 10% do the exact polar opposite. They're hopeful with their winners. They let them run. And they're absolutely terrified of their losers, cutting them loose instantly, no questions asked.
And this quote from the book just nails it. The goal isn't to never have a losing trade. That's totally impossible. The goal is to get incredibly good at losing. It's about mastering the art of taking small, quick, and emotionally painless losses the second the market tells you you're wrong. That way, you protect your capital for the trades that are actually going to make you money.
He uses this brilliant analogy in the book. Think of it this way. Your winning trade is like a star CEO who just keeps delivering amazing results for the company. Your losing trade? That's a junkie on the street, always promising this is the time they'll turn it all around, but they never do. So when you sell your winner just to hold on to your loser a little longer, you're literally firing your star CEO to go bet the whole company on the junkie. When you frame it like that, it sounds insane, doesn't it?
All right, so the idea makes sense, but how do you actually do it? I mean, how do you literally rewire your brain to think like the winning 10%? Well, it all starts by unlearning some of our most deeply ingrained human instincts.
For starters, you have to stop thinking like you're at the supermarket. Think about it. In our everyday lives, we are trained to look for a deal. We love a good sale. If the price of something is dropping, our first instinct is awesome, it's getting cheaper, now's the time to buy. In the world of trading, that instinct is absolute poison. It makes you want to buy something that everyone else is desperately selling.
So, rewiring your brain isn't a quick fix. It's about building a whole new process. For instance, you have to become process-oriented, not outcome-oriented. That means your goal for the day isn't make money. Your goal is follow my plan perfectly. If you follow your rules and you lose money, that was a good day. If you break your rules and get lucky, that was a bad day. You also have to completely change what it means to be wrong. Being wrong isn't a personal failure. It's just the market giving you new information. It's saying, hey, that idea you had, it's not working out. And the best traders, they hear that message, they accept it immediately, and they get out with a small loss. They don't sit there arguing with the market.
And really, that's the ultimate takeaway here. The very skills that help us succeed in almost every other part of life, things like avoiding failure at all costs, seeking comfort, looking for a bargain, those are the exact things that will make you fail in trading. You literally have to unlearn what feels right and get comfortable doing what feels psychologically really, really hard.
So I'll just leave you with this to think about. This whole idea of challenging our default, normal way of thinking is incredibly powerful. So my question for you is, where else in your life, maybe in your career or even your relationships, might that normal, conventional thinking be the very thing that's holding you back?